Hey, welcome to Truth from the Word today. I'm Preacher Triune. Today we're talking about, is it okay for Christians to celebrate Christmas or other holidays? Our main scripture verse for today is 1 Corinthians 9, 19 through 23. That's 1 Corinthians 9, 19 through 23. I'll read it. 1 Corinthians 9. Start with me in verse 19. For though I be free from all men, yet have I made myself servant unto all, that I might gain the more. And unto the Jews I became as a Jew, that I might gain the Jews. To them that are under the law, as under the law, that I might gain them that are under the law. To them that are without law, as without law, being not without law to God, but under the law to Christ, that I might gain them that are without law. To the weak I became weak, that I might gain the weak. And I am made all things to all men, that I might by all means save some. And this I do for the gospel's sake, that I might be a partaker thereof with you. So you may ask, well, what does this verse have to do with Christmas or other holidays? And why are we even talking about this? I mean, isn't Christmas a Christian holiday? As many of you probably already know, with Christmas in particular, the date of Christmas and a lot of the different practices during Christmas were used to replace and to cover over some of the practices of many different pagan religions in the past. So like December 25th was supposed to be representing the birthday of Tammuz. Tammuz goes back to Nimrod's Tower of Babel, worshiping the sun. And instead of focusing on worshiping the S-U-N sun, they wanted to replace and reinvigorate people to worship the S-O-N sun. And with that also comes several different sources of different traditions we do, like having a Christmas tree. Christmas tree originally was actually one of the rituals they did for celebrating, again, back to Tammuz and things like that. But then later on, it also was reassociated to cover up some other religions as well, and replace different worships of other trees and stuff from other religions on that actual day itself. So the question comes down to, is having a Christmas tree sinful? Are pine trees sinful? Are putting gifts under pine trees sinful? And is celebrating Christmas on December 25th sinful? That's a good question. And this is a question I would like Jesus to answer for us. As you know, Jesus actually didn't celebrate Christmas. He didn't celebrate Christmas. Matter of fact, most of cultures around the world never celebrated people's birthdays. They actually started celebrating after someone died, memorial of them. But Jesus did have holidays and stuff that he did go and celebrate with the nation. And one holiday in particular is not a biblical holiday commanded by God to celebrate, that Jesus did go and attend. But let's see how he went and he attended and how he acted during that time. Turn your Bibles to John chapter 10. John chapter 10, verse 22. In John chapter 10, verse 22, it says, and it was at Jerusalem, the feast dedication, and it was winter. Verse 23, and Jesus walked in the temple in Solomon's porch. See, Jesus went there to the feast dedication to celebrate Hanukkah, to remember about the time when the Maccabee brothers revolted and they were able to take back the temple. And it's a celebration of light because they were remembrance about how they only had 1 day worth of oil in the temple, and they lit the menorah and it burnt for 8 days straight, which is what they considered the Hanukkah miracle. So Hanukkah was a national holiday. It was not a biblical holiday. It was a national holiday. Here we see Jesus. He's coming down. He came out of Galilee all the way down to Jerusalem to celebrate Hanukkah. I mean, that's a 10 to 14 day walk from Now, Hanukkah was a little bit of a problem holiday for the Jews, if you think about it, because over time they started using it to think about, well, since God allowed us to revolt and get back our temple and stuff all the way back then during the time of the Maccabees, well, since we're taken over by Rome now, definitely God's going to come and He's going to let us be able to take everything back from the Roman Empire. But was that God's plan for Israel at the time? The answer is no, it wasn't. So this type of idea and philosophy, which was permeated all throughout this holiday, really started messing with people as they celebrated things. Even the perspective of the Messiah was completely different now because of these different philosophies. So then comes a big question. Jesus is here at a national holiday which is typically built around something that's not necessarily would be good motives in many different ways, though it's around a true historic event that is worth celebrating, as Jesus showed. So what does Jesus do? How does Jesus celebrate it? Well, I think that is the question we need to ask when we're dealing with holidays and stuff. We're focusing back there on 1 Corinthians 9, 19 through 23. Jesus took the holiday and He captured it and celebrated it through promoting who He was and bringing people to the good news that God had for them. Paul, in the book of Acts, which is later in history, of course, in Acts chapter 17, he goes up to Mars Hill in Athens, and he does something incredible there. I mean, these are the intellectual people. They all get together on Mars Hill and kind of debate stuff back and forth. This format of how they're supposed to debate and bring forth discussion. And it says in Acts chapter 17, starting at verse 22, it says, "Then Paul stood amidst the Mars Hill and said, Ye men of Athens, I perceive that in all things ye are too superstitious." 23, "For as I passed by and beheld your devotions, I found an altar with this inscription, To the unknown God, whom therefore ye ignorantly worship, him declare I unto you." You see, Paul looked around and saw this stone here. He knew a little bit of the history and stuff behind the stone, and was able to utilize it to bring people to the good news of Jesus Christ. Later in verse 27, he says that they should seek the Lord, if haply they might grope after him and find him, though he be not far from every one of us. See, God does is if somebody wants to know him, if you read this whole chapter through, God will make a way for that person to know him, no matter where they are on the planet. Verse 28 goes further with what Paul says. Paul says, "For in him we live and move and have our being, and certain also of your own poets." See, he starts quoting their own poets. Is that poet saved? No, the poet is not a saved poet. It is not a Christian. He is going out and reaching out into their own literature and pulling out information from their own literature. He said, "Your own poets have said, for we are all also his offspring." You see, he starts utilizing the culture around them to be able to direct them to the good. Now, going back to 1 Corinthians chapter 9, 19 to 23, Paul is talking about how he would make himself like unto that other person so that they can understand the concept of the good news. It has a great concept to understand. You see, if we celebrate any holiday, we should be celebrating it through the aspect and mindset like Jesus did, where whatever we do, we should be doing it unto bringing forth the good news to the people around us. So if we celebrate, Hanukkah, if we celebrate Christmas, if we celebrate New Year's, if we celebrate Independence Day, whatever day we celebrate, we should be doing so in such a way that brings people to the acknowledgement and good news of Jesus Christ, to see what God has done and is doing, and the wonderful God that He is. Well, should we celebrate Christmas? Should we not? People will debate back and forth and be like, no, it's too much paganism and stuff in it, and materialism and so forth and so on. But if we take a step back out of those things and step into it through the aspect of always focusing on Jesus and the gospel and the good news that's there, and do stuff in such a way and focusing in such a way towards that good news, it is completely okay to celebrate, and it's the way we should be celebrating any holiday, not just Christmas, but any holiday. So is it okay to participate or to do certain things or all the things in different holidays if you know that certain things or part of the holidays is sinful or represents sin? It's a really good question, and definitely need to be praying with God about when you deal with different holidays. But you see, different things represent different things to different people. Because in reality, if you look at everything around you, people use everything around us for evil as well as it can be used for good. Money is a great example of that. If you really want to get serious about don't use things that are used for evil or used to worship evil, you would be burning all your dollar bills. But the reality is, if you look at different holidays and cultures and different parts of it, there's certain things that we shouldn't be doing. There's certain things that are only represent evil. But there's certain aspects of different holidays and cultures that we can do and we can use them to focus on Jesus Christ and sharing that good news and pointing people to that good. The Christmas tree is a great question example about, should we have Christmas trees? Should we not? Since the original Christmas trees had such a pagan origin. That's a really good question. But you see, there's also several different points of origin from the Christmas tree for different locations. Of course, originally, Christmas tree kind of goes back, evergreen tree, decorating it and putting Christmas presents underneath, go back to, celebrating Tammuz and things like that. But then also, later on in history, you have a point in northern Germany where they actually used the, evergreen trees to replace the worship of things like oak trees and stuff, like the oak tree of Thor and so forth, and replaced it with something different to point people to Jesus instead, and using it as a pictorial example to explain Jesus to people. So if you use whatever you're using, you need to use it to show the good news. If you're decorating a Christmas tree to celebrate Tammuz, that's a bad thing. But if you have a tree which you're putting together and actually having as a Christ mass tree, people getting together to celebrate Christ, is that necessarily a bad thing? Does Satan own all the pine trees on the planet now? And we can't use pine trees anymore because Satan used it for something evil? And those are good questions to ask. And you can't really condemn anyone if their focus is on sharing the good news through the actual things which they have and are doing. So as you go across the internet, today you'll see across all blogs and stuff, all the origins of Christmas and things like that, and showing the pictures, the Egyptian pictures of, Christmas trees and stuff, and hieroglyphs and stuff from Babylonian culture as well. And again, it all goes back to Nimrod and stuff like that. Just remember that when we celebrate things, we're celebrating Christ and whatever we celebrate. So take that into heart, and just remember that Jesus did celebrate Hanukkah, even though people were using Hanukkah as an excuse to focus on revolting and overthrowing, potentially, the Roman Empire. Back to 1 Corinthians chapter 9, I'll skip all the way down to verse 23. And this I do for the gospel's sake, that I might be partaker thereof with you. God bless, and also remember to share your faith.